That there are people who have not been able to find back their life after the flood incident.
Sure.
So that's because of the experience they have passed through. Don't forget that some will be open to sickness. Because because in one way or the other, the environment has been charged with all manner of things. The water contaminated, and some of us in the rural area have depended on this natural thing. Some of the food we eat has been contaminated. Some have been harvested premature, having absorbed the flood water. You don't know where the water is coming from. Some of them have passed through burial grounds, cemeteries, have passed through medical facilities, have passed through companies that are into chemicals and all that. So it carries a lot of things. And the ordinary man will not understand. So when there is response, there must be a holistic. That's why I say there's no planning. It's not just going to give the people. When you evacuate the people to that place, they're going to provide for them what is minimal to the extent that it can handle the concern in terms of health. The people must be treated because they have gone through things. There's supposed to be a psychological aspect of it to talk to them, to prepare their mind to say it's not the end of the life. You just take this place. There must be a close interface within the people, the government agency, and everybody that's found around there. So that's part of response. You understand what I'm saying? They will now look at the point of providing what they will eat, because at an issue, the flood had disrupted their source of livelihood. If they had farm, they had business, it is completely disrupted. Whatever they have stocked would have been damaged by the flood. So they need to eat. And that food is not Indomie. There's no average man of 30 or 40 years who lives his life on Indomie. And that's what we have heard and seen people, philanthropists, so to say, quote, and it's damaging to my thought when I hear that. They go there and flaunt that they brought 200 cartons of Indomie. As an adult, how many Indomie will you eat and it will be enough for you? That you eat it in the morning and, evening and all. So that's what I think response should be.
Okay, now let's talk about impact. I know in course of trying to respond to the response so far, you've mentioned some of the impact. The impact is massive. Let's talk about it.
Psychologically, it reduces the man to the point that he feels he has lost his dignity. Because a man is strengthened because of where he is, what he's doing. When a man loses his shelter, when he loses his source of life, a man, I'm talking about man and woman, you have completely killed the man. And well, this is natural, but then that's what it is. The man loses. You see, there are people who have not been able to put back their houses, even in towns here that's been damaged by flood, because it's not easy to make money. That's part of it. It damages the environment where we are. The physical environment is damaged. Trees, shrubs, that sustain the environment are washed away and pulled out. Houses are destroyed.
Sure.
And these are the houses that we need to stay to be able to take back our life. Houses are destroyed, damaged. I'm talking about big houses, block houses, let alone the modern houses. So you can see. Now, ultimately, lives are lost. Sure. 800, 400,000 persons displaced in Borno. The one of River State is happening. Not every. That's what they are able to see. There are people in the hinterlands that are not accessible, that you and I may not have the patience to trek a distance to find, and they are not reported. They are there to just nurse their wound and lick it, and whether they are dead or they are alive, they are injured. People get injured because of it. Sure. Because if the flood comes and you see people carrying their properties in the water, and some fall in get their legs broken, hand, and all manner of bruises. So these are the impacts. But like I say, ultimately, that is the loss of life. If it is one life, it's only in Africa that we don't consider a life to be important. It's only in this part of the world that when one person dies, okay, we thank God that is one person. No, a life that could have been the next president of this country. That could have been the next governor. That could have been the next scientist. That could have been the one that would discover one of the most important things that we have been struggling with. So one life is important.
We can't exhaust this conversation. We can never exhaust this conversation. But Dr. Emmanuel, please, leave us. We've talked about a whole lot of things. Leave us with your final thought.
The final thought is that we must realize that as long as we continue on this earth, we need the environment. And if we are not careful to treat it as our own and something we depend on, it's going to fight us back. And what we're seeing It's just a small, it's like a tick of the iceberg if we don't change our attitude in our individual life, in our neighborhood, in our businesses, and even in policy formulation and implementation. Government has a role to play. I want to see the government relate with the environment. It's not a matter of talking. I heard the governor say they are making stories, or it's not story. They're creating news. It's not news. We want to standard of living is measured by the extent of good that people enjoy or receive in a particular location where they find themselves. So if at the period of the rainy season we cannot live our life adequately well, then there is no good standard of living.
Okay, there is no good standard of living. Well, we'll just leave it there. And I want to say thank you so much, Dr. Mawa, for coming, to share your thoughts with us on the program. It's always a delight to have you have this conversation.
Thank you very much.
All right, okay. The show is the Garden City Rendezvous. If you're just watching us, we've been having a quite interesting and engaging conversation here with Dr. Emmanuel Olu. He's also an environmentalist. He spoke so passionately, and we all are passionate about what we're saying here, and we want to ensure that, yes, our brothers and sisters who are affected are taken care of together. Let's continue to build a better and, of course, a healthier society. All right, moving on right now. Yes, 15th of September is set aside as International Democracy Day. That will be part of our discussion. But let's take a look at this report. When we come back, we'll be talking some more. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
In 1960, to establish democratic tenets as Nigeria's governance model, Nigeria is experiencing 25 years of unbroken democracy. This was largely due to military incursions and seeming attempts by the military to correct the wrongs of the political class. However, since the present democratic experience in 1999, Nigeria has continued to improve on its governance process despite the challenges still confronting the system.
If Nigeria has survived 25 years, so we believe that another 25 years we would have been through this phase and go into, a better Nigeria, because some of these nations we used to compare Nigeria have lived over 100 years, like America and the rest of them.
Democracy is a good thing, and it is what every decent society should yield for. When you bring it down to Nigeria, I think democracy has given Nigeria opportunities to understand that self-rule is what every government needs.
From perceived godfatherism, ethnic and religious bigotry, political experts and analysts believe that the present democratic rule far outweighs military dictatorship.
Nigeria should work mostly on INEC and judiciary, so the government will be more stronger than what we have now.
I know that if President Bola Ahmed Tinubu would implement all he have in mind, INEC would be better. Results will be transmitted real time. And if results are transmitted real time, then we'll have a better Nigeria.
Despite the challenges still experienced in advancing Nigeria's democracy, many are optimistic that the future is bright as efforts are being intensified by the present administration towards improving on the mistakes of the past.
All right, glad to know that you're still there. If you're just joining us, the program is Garden City Rendezvous. Yes, we just watched that report talking about 25 years of Nigeria democracy. And bearing in mind that 15th of September is set aside as International Day for Democracy, I have a guest with me here. He is, of course, a lecturer. He goes by the name Zoe Solomon Tamino Tonyi. We're glad to have you in the studio, sir.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure.
How you doing, sir?
I'm good.
Is the weather affecting you like it's affecting a lot of people, sir? How's the weather been for you so far?
The economy.
Okay, the economy.
Yes.
Okay, you're okay with the weather. The weather is okay.
In fact, we need the weather to cool off the economy.
I like the way that one sounds. He said it's the economy. We're glad to have you join us in the studio. All right, so we're talking democracy now. We know that 15th September is set aside to celebrate the International Day of Democracy. So to speak, speak to us about the importance of having a democratic, will I say, democratic government or democratic society?
Well, thank you very much for that question. This kind of thing is supposed to be, an anniversary is supposed to be something for celebration, especially when something have grown to 25 years. It's supposed to be a thing of celebration. But I don't think if that is a feeling that the ordinary Nigerian citizens will have. You know, when it comes to 1st October before now, people prepare towards it. You know, people look forward to it. When you go on the streets on 1st October in Nigeria, across everywhere, you see green, white, green. People are dressed in green, white, green. Shops are decorated. All those things are fast faded away with time, especially as we come into democracy. Now, what is democracy to begin with? In a simple term, it is a government of the people. That is, it is a government that is constituted by the consent of the people. And that government constituted by the consent of the people is for the welfare of the people. So the question then comes, is it what we have in Nigeria today? So it's a great concern to talk about democracy 25 years in Nigeria. You know, when I was coming to this studio and I was pondering on what to say, something crossed my mind. Remember the late Fela, the musician. You know, he described democracy in Nigeria as democracy. So what we're going to look at is are we actually practicing democracy, or we are practicing what Fela called them all crazy? You know, that is where we are today, because, you know, Secretary said, and the unexamined life is not worth living. So I'm happy that your station is bringing this issue for us to discuss and examine it. If you ask me to evaluate democracy in the last 25 years, I would say that it's quite unfortunate that we have rather produced strong men as against strong institutions. That's what our 25 years of democracy has produced. What do I mean by that?
Go ahead.
Democracy, actually, like I said, is a government of the people. Like Abraham Lincoln would say in a Gettysburg speech in the 16th century or thereabout. He said, it is a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. That means everything about democracy has to originate from the people. Now, that origination from the people, it's through the electoral process. So the question is, in our electoral process, in the last 25 years of democracy, has the outcome of the electoral process come from the people, especially with the last election? All the elections are, as far as I'm concerned, but let's just come to the last election. Those are fundamental questions. Has Nigerians actually, you know, the elections that produce our democratic leaders in Nigeria, is it actually the outcome of the consent of the people through the ballot box? That's a one
So
question
what you're
to
saying
ask.
now, in 25 years, our journey so far has not been a bit as smooth. It has been a shaky one, so to speak.
We have not actually taken off as a democratic state. We are just, you know, playing around the concept democracy. We have not put that word into action with so many things on ground. That is not to say at all. No, we can't say so, because there are pockets of good here and there that have actually, there are some, you know, the democracy has to do with institutions, okay? And these institutions must be functional. They must be working within what we call the rule of law. Institutions have to replicate rule of law. But why I said we have produced strong men as against strong institutions is that the decisions of individuals that are operating the system, their whims and caprices becomes law, becomes the order of the day. That is the challenge we are talking about. However, we have been able to make some little progress here and there, especially as it regards to transition, because one of the fundamental progress you can, you know, factor you can use to assess a democracy is transition of power. And in that area, we have been able to transit power from one individual to another individual, from one party to another party, and just like that. But the processes is a concern. However, we have succeeded in trying to translate from one government to other in the democratic
Let's begin
process.
to look at some of our major challenges, you know, the major challenges we have experienced in our democracy. Tell us about them.
The major challenge of our democracy right now as we speak are basically in 3 dimensions. Number 1 is institutional. Number 2 is law, the constitution. And number 3, attitudinal. The attitudinal influence the other 2. Attitudinal in terms of the attitude of the people, both the governed and the governors. Our attitude as citizens doing what they are supposed to do in a democracy, are even the ordinary Nigerian citizen aware of their duties in a democracy? Are they aware? And then those who are governing us through the electoral process, are they doing what they are supposed to do? Are they governing us according to the rule of law? So the attitude, our attitude towards our democracy is the fundamental problem. And then that goes to the laws. What are the laws? For instance, the 1999 Constitution with which we are operating the current democracy is so flawed. It is because it is flawed that you can see that even the judiciary keep giving decisions that are confusing and conflicting in any matter that goes to the courts. Because you will see that a matter will be brought to a lower court in the morning, the same court of jurisdiction in the morning, and a judgment will be given in favor of party A against party B. In the afternoon, another court with the same jurisdiction is still giving a judgment concerning that same matter, favoring party A against party B. These are the problem we have with our constitution. So one of the way forward, one of the challenges is the constitution. The constitution, as you know, it originated from the military. So it has never been a constitution. I don't like, we have to make comparison so as to appreciate what we are going through with our democracy. The American Constitution, it was a homegrown constitution. It was a constitution that emanated from the people. When you go to read the Federalist papers about the American Constitution, you will hear names like Manderson, Edison, Adams. These are people who came together time to time. They sit down, they write articles, ideas of the kind of country they want, America they want. They started as a confederal state. America is made up of 50 countries that came together to form one country. This was because the individuals who came together, they think not for their interests, as like what we have in Nigeria now. Anytime the National Assembly is making laws, amending the constitution, it is for their interest in the next election, to protect their interest in the next election. It was not the case with the Americans. So those people were looking at the future 300 years later, what will America look like? That was how they came up with that constitution. So right now in Nigeria, we don't have a people-oriented constitution. And to make democracy work, you must have a people-oriented constitution, a constitution that the people will come together and say, what do we want? First, they will ask, there are fundamental questions to ask for you to become a nation. Do we want to be one nation, the different ethnic groups? Do we want to be one nation? If yes, what are the parameters? What are the yardstick? What are the laws do we need to become one nation? So that we will not be talking about ethnicity. If you go to America, you hear African American, Hispanic American. Nobody is talking about I'm an Igbo, a Biafra, I'm an Arewa. No, they mention their ethnic group in line with the country. That is because every ethnic group has the opportunity in the American dream. But this is not the case with Nigeria, and that is why you see all this agitation, ethnic rivalry and all the rest, because people are not getting it at the national. They have to fall back to their ethnic group for support. So the first thing to do is to sit down and give ourselves a people-oriented constitution. And then the next one is the institutions. Let the institution be stronger than the individuals. I'll give you another example, like America again. Look at the former president of America, who is still coming out to contest. He is going from one court to the other to be accountable for his actions while he was a president. Look at the presidents in power. His son has just been prosecuted and convicted. It cannot happen in Nigeria. And the president went ahead to say he will not pardon his child. This is a country where the institutions are working as against the strength of the individual. But in Nigeria, it is the individual. Take example, River State. Look at what is happening in River State. One man wanting to, use his own power, express his will over the entire state. And it has come to a point, it is either it is his way or there is no way in River State. So these are the major challenges democracy is facing in the last 25 years in Nigeria.
Let's talk about way forward and of course citizen involvement in our electoral process, because you talk about are the citizen even aware, of their role in a democratic. Let's talk about it as we say our goodbye, because time here is not our friend.
Okay, I'm happy that you are bringing this program. I believe so many viewers are watching this program now. The way forward with our democracy, like I said, the attitudinal, it has to start with the citizen. And that is where the media comes in. And that is where the National Orientation Agency comes in. We need to begin to educate our people to know their right in a democratic society, to know not just their right, but their obligation also, to begin to ask questions of accountability and transparency. We need to, engage the citizens to know that they don't need to take under our government. Do you know one of the ways to the factors that show a failed state is when a state begin to give handout, what they call palliative, to citizens, rather than empowering, creating the necessary economic environment for citizens to strive and think for themselves. That is a failed state, and Nigeria is driven towards that path. How can you, what is the logic to increase fuel price from 165 naira to almost 1,400 to 500 naira, and then take money from the people through that means, and then now come back, government now come back to give rice at a rate of 40,000 naira. I have not seen the logic or the rationale with which this government wants to govern the people. Okay. So the first thing to do is to educate our people and let our people begin to rise and begin to ask the necessary question. Then the second one is those who are governing us. They should come to governance with the mind of service. Okay. Right now, our leaders have the mind to get access to the national resources and get it for the betterment of their people, for themselves and their people, and not for the people. So the way forward is strengthening our institutions, reform our constitution, and then people should have the right attitude towards governance.
Thank you very much, sir, for sharing your thoughts with us. It's just time for us to say our goodbye. I want to appreciate you, Zoe Solomon Tamanotoyi, for coming on the program.
It's my pleasure. Thank you very much.
All right, we'll say thank you to everyone who is part of this program today. We hope you have taken a theme from all that we have discussed. My name is Blessing Oti. Thank you for being part. Let's do it again, same time, same station next week. Bye for now.